Joining me now is White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders. Sarah, thank you so much for being with us. The president delivers the State of the Union address tonight, the first time he will do so to a divided Congress. Democrats have control of the House. Nancy Pelosi will be sitting behind him. How will tonight's message be different?
Look, I don't think that the president's message is going to be different than the one he's been talking about since he started campaigning. This is a president who is a visionary. He's a president who likes to get things done. And he's going to lay out the case, one of things that we've already accomplished, some of which we've done in a bipartisan fashion, and also looking forward. If we are willing to work together, if we are willing to choose greatness, here's what we can accomplish. Here's what we can do. Let's come together. Let's do what all of America wants from us. Let's do our jobs and let's solve real problems.
Coming together, unity, comedy with a T there. Can you give me specific examples of things he will propose tonight that have bipartisan support?
Certainly, I think you can expect that the president will talk about infrastructure. You'll hear the president talk about the opioid crisis in this country. And I'm going to leave some things left for the president to talk about. But there are a number of policies that Democrats and Republicans know need to be addressed. I think infrastructure is one of the easiest ones for us to look at. Everybody in this country knows that we have crumbling bridges and roads that need to be fixed. We also have a technology infrastructure that needs to get better, whether it's securing networks, whether it's protecting our tech infrastructure. Those are things that Republicans and Democrats agree on. They know we need to work on, and we're hopeful that we can come together and get something done.
Are we going to see another infrastructure week?
I don't know about that, but it's still one of the best tweets I've ever had when my 4-year-old accidentally got a hold of my phone and popped out a couple of infrastructure-like emojis. I guess I should count my blessings because it could have been much worse from a 4-year-old.
That's why every week has been infrastructure week, because of your 4-year-old. One of the things that's interesting in polling, Sarah, is that if you look at January 2017, the president's approval rating among independents was 41%. If you look at February 2019, the president's approval rating among independents is 41%. And I present that because if the goal here is for the president to expand beyond his base, the evidence is that's been a challenge. He hasn't had results there. And I wonder if you thought about why.
I think the president's primary focus isn't on results in the polls, of which I think there are a number of them he's doing very well. Rasmussen had him at 45 just earlier this week. But the biggest focus that the president has is actually on results for the American people, not what the polls are going to reflect. That's why he's focused so much on the economy. Everyone in the country is feeling the power of the economic boom that we're facing right now under the leadership of this president. Jobs are coming in at a pace that we haven't seen in decades. Unemployment is lower. Wages are higher. There is no doubt in any economist's mind that the economy has been better under this president than it has been in decades. That's one of the best things that can happen to a country, and it's one of the things that the president has directly been involved in, focused on, and something that impacts all Americans, and something that we're certainly very proud of, and something I think that people will be voting on this come 2020.
We just had Christine Romans on to tell us about some of the economic realities here and how good the economy is. I think you will have people from both sides of the aisle who will say that this expansion began during the Obama administration, and this is, while wildly successful, very much a continuation of what we saw then. That's not to put an argument to this.
Actually, people during that administration said that things like manufacturing were dead, yet we've had 600,000 new manufacturing jobs added under this president. These are people that said GDP levels at 3 and 4 could never be reached, and they're being reached under this president.
They are being reached, but they were reached in quarters during the Obama administration, and President Trump has promised annual GDP of 5. We're not there yet. This isn't to argue about that, because as we said, Sarah, Christine Romans was just here talking about the strength of the economy. And I think it is interesting and instructive, and I hope people are listening to you. We are going to hear the president talk about that tonight. Thematically, I think that is a very interesting point. On the border wall and on these negotiations, 10 more days before we face the possibility of another government shutdown, will the president make a specific promise tonight to declare an emergency if there's not an agreement that he likes that is reached?
Look, I'm not going to get ahead of the president's speech tonight. What I can tell you that he will discuss when it comes to the wall and immigration is that the president is as committed today as he's ever been to border security. He knows that we have to stop the cartels, the coyotes, the human trafficking coming across our border. He's serious about it. He's not going to stop until we fix this problem. Not one more American life should be lost because we failed to secure our border, whether it's from gangs. There was a shooting just yesterday by what looks to be MS-13 gang members in the New York subway. These things should not be happening if we can prevent that. And we know that the crime and the drugs and those things drastically stops if you have real border security, and that includes a wall.
Okay, the includes the wall point is the part that is up for debate. I mean, Democrats and Republicans have both called for new money for border security. The wall is the sticking point. That is what the shutdown is over. And just again, for point of reference here, immigration, illegal border crossings up from last year, but near an historic low. It is at the low point of where those trends are, correct?
But John, I don't think the wall is up for the debate. Democrats have repeatedly voted and supported building a wall and putting a barrier on our border. They've been doing it for decades. Only since Donald Trump became president did they decide to oppose it. They have got to stop playing political games and realize that the safety and security of Americans is more important than partisan politics. I think you're going to see the president lay the case out for that tonight. Hopefully the Democrats in the room will be listening, not just to the president, but to the people of this country, to the families, the angel moms across this country, families that have lost a child, a brother, a sister, a mother, to the opioid crisis. We know that 300 Americans a week are killed by heroin alone, and 90% of that comes across the southern border. If there is even one person that we can save by securing our border, we should be doing that. And hopefully again, Democrats are paying attention to that.
And I just want to point out
tonight.
again, as we pointed out before and others have, most of the heroin does come across at the legal points of entry, which I know you know.
Certainly
not all, but most. Again, legal ports of entry is where most of that happens. Can you just clarify, as we sit here this morning on February 5th, is it a wall or is it a fence at this point? What would the president support, a fence or only a wall?
Look, as the president said, you can call it a wall, you can call it a barrier. What we're looking at is a steel barrier that you can see through, but that keeps people from coming in illegally, forces folks to go through the ports of entry so that they have greater technology, which both Democrats and Republicans support increasing, so that we're pushing them to points where they can be checked and determine whether or not they should come into this country. That's something that we have to see happen.
Just to
and
be
that's
clear,
something the president's not going to stop.
I think his most recent statement about wall or fence is, let's just call it for what it is. I think right now, and I could be wrong, I think right now he's on just a wall. A wall is a wall. We'll find out where he is tonight on that. There subpoenas issued overnight, Sarah, to the inaugural committee for all kinds of information, possible foreign contacts, wants to know where the payments were going. Are you confident that no one performed any illegal actions on the president's inaugural committee?
Look, I'm reading the same reports you are this morning and gathering that information. What I do know at this point is this has nothing to do with the White House. And for anything specific and further, I'd refer you back to the Trump inaugural committee. The
inaugural committee is absolutely separate from the White House. The notion, though, that it has nothing to do with the White House in a broader sense, though, and we talked the day that Roger Stone was arrested as well, it has something to do with the person who sits in the Oval Office, in that President Trump. It was his inauguration. It was his campaign that there are so many investigations and questions with now. His transition, which is investigated, the Trump Organization being investigated at all. He is a common thread to an extent between all these investigations, is he not?
Actually, I think the common thread is a hysteria over the fact that this president became president. The common thread is that there is so much hatred out there that they will look for anything to try to create and tie problems to this president. The things with people like Roger Stone and Paul Manafort literally have nothing to do with the president, have to do with the fact of their communications with Congress. And that's not something that the president has any jurisdiction over. The president has asked everyone to be cooperative throughout the investigation. He himself has been. They've turned over millions of pages of documents. The fact that those things have taken place literally have absolutely nothing to do with the president. And they have everything to do with the fact that people are spending their entire life doing nothing but trying to find negatives, when in fact the president has been incredibly successful. He's had two of the most successful years we've ever seen under any first-term president.